There's still a revolution. Brothers and sisters taking a stand. Standing up for what's right and demanding equality. How many know that we were never set free? We've got to join together as one, or we're gonna fall together as many. We've got to set our differences aside and let unity be our guide, and everything will be alright.
Now, when we first organized the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, he would say, Bobby, he says, we're gonna draw up a basic platform, just basic, that black people can read. He says, we don't wanna go real elaborate with all these essays and dissertations and all this stuff, because the brother gonna look at that and he can say, man, I ain't got time for that, I gotta go see what I can do for myself. He said, just a basic platform that the mothers who struggle hard to raise us, that the fathers who've worked hard, that the young brothers in school who come out of school semi-literate, reading broken words. He said, we just want a basic platform to outline black people's basic political desires and needs. First, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. We want all black men held in county, state, federal jails and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial, because they've been tried by all white juries, and that's just like being tried in Germany, being a Jew.
Do you remember Huey P. Newton, Kwame Ture? How I wish that they were here today. Where are the fallen soldiers? Can I salute you? Where are the fallen soldiers? Can I salute?
Good evening. Welcome to Word from the Point. My name is Kwame Benter, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to tune into our show. This is our first of 6 shows that we're going to be broadcasting here. And what we're going to be doing is talking about very important issues dealing with our communities, our families, and we're going to be covering different topics like education, housing, transportation, employment, job training, medical, all the things that we needed to be discussing for ourselves and our communities to try to improve the conditions that we live in now. We've been doing this show for several years. We actually started this show back in 1998, and we've taken a few breaks from time to time, but we're back on now. Word from the Point. And the reason why we named the show Word from the Point is because basically we're out here on the front lines getting information, trying to make positive changes in the community. So what we like to do is bring back information to help empower you, the listener, to try to give you the resources and the information that you need to go out here and get involved in trying to make a positive change in our community. Tonight I have a very special guest, and before I go into introducing her, I'll give you a little bit about my background myself. I was born here in Richmond, Virginia, but I was raised in New Jersey. Been back here since '79. Currently, I'm self-employed. I do property improvement and renovation work, and I also have a mobile cell phone company that I can offer members an opportunity to eliminate the cell phone bill. I'm a member of several organizations. The shirt that I got on is one of the organizations I belong to called the November Coalition. They're out of Cogville, Washington. They've been around since '97. And basically this shirt says there's no justice in the war on drugs, and numbers don't lie. And what we've been trying to do is educate the public about the negative consequences of the world's of this country's longest war, the war on drugs. I'm also a member of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Leagues, the organization government founded by the Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. And that organization basically is to try to educate African people on a global scale about doing for self, learning to love ourselves and accept who we are, and stop trying to be something that we are not, and stop having our hands out begging and, you know, demanding what is due ours instead of begging for it. But until we can come together as one common fraternity, united, we will never have the power to demand what's due to us as a people. Also, I'm a member of the Defenders, Virginia Defenders for Freedom, Justice, and Equality, which is an organization here working also to dealing with the issues. One of the issues that we're dealing with right now is trying to prevent the mayor from putting the stadium down Shockoe Bottom to desecrate that sacred ground. There's a lot of information and evidence and history down there that needs to be preserved and shared so that the true history of this country can be taught to our children in school, so that we can eliminate the myth of white supremacy that's being projected into the minds of our youth as they come up, which contributes to our youth easily dropping out of school because the curriculum is just not designed to empower African children. And I guess I'm gonna just leave it right there, and what I'm gonna do is go ahead and introduce you to our guest. Our guest is a community strategist, advocate, trying to empower the masses in the community to try to do stuff for themselves and give them the proper resources and information that they need so they can get involved, so that they can have a voice in the process of what's going on in their neighborhood. Her name is Lily Estes, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell her a little bit about her and what she's doing.
Good evening, Brother
Welcome to the
Benson.
show.
Thank you very much.
Glad you came.
I am most excited to be on your show, Word from the Point. I thank you much. My name is Lily Estes, and I am a community strategist. I developed that handle from working in the community many years and seeing where people have very good programs, but they lack the process of really making those programs work throughout the entire community. So there's community advocate, community organizer. So I wanted to take it a step further so that we could see the outward manifestation of real work among the 99% of our community. I came to Richmond in 1977 to go to school at BCU. And throughout that time period, I've done various different things. I've sold real estate. I've actually worked for a cable company, sold cable. My degree is in administration of justice and public safety with a concentration in juvenile justice. Life is life, and now I am a resident of public housing. And through that, I have learned that this is a ministry for me to work to empower people that have limited means. My skill sets have allowed me to be very effective in administrative work. And with that, I believe we have an opportunity to do personal development, change our personal economy, and improve our condition by doing more effective work one person to one person. Right now, I sit on the Mayor's Citizens Advisory Board, where we're looking at the elimination of poverty and the wealth building in our community. So I take that from a very practical stance where we can each empower each other in order to do a good work. And then I just try to get real basic information and make it work in our community. A couple of documents that I have here this evening is Beyond Brokerage, a national report that was released in May. And then I want to take the national report and make it work on the local level with where regular citizens can actually do a good work in their community and do local work, state work, and federal work in the best way, the highest and best way that they can.
Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. I've been doing this for quite a while, you know, and it seems like, to me, we haven't really made much progress, you know, as a people, as far as our economic standing, our education, our health, and all those things seem like we've digressed. You know, the families, I know according to statistics back in the 70s, 80% of our families were two-family households, you know, mother and father. But now it's about 30%, you know, and there's a reason for that. I don't think it's by accident, you know. And what I want to ask you is that what do you think is keeping African or African Americans, whatever you want to call them, from coming together and uniting to improve the conditions that we currently face? High unemployment, the first one sick, high dropout, highly represented in prison. You know, down 17th Street, they have this brand new jail, and to me, that's a modern day slave ship. You know, because if you go in there, I'm gonna probably 90% of the people are gonna look like me. You know, and I don't think that we're born inherently criminal, but I believe that the laws on the books are specifically placed on these books to target a certain group of people that they consider useless eaters these days, to usher them into these prisons that a lot of them now are prisons for profit. You know, and there's one state, and I'm not sure which state it is actually a private prison company is trying to sue the state because they won't keep it full.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So what do you think is one of our major problems for keeping us from coming together as a people?
Well, having worked in the community many times, I think that it's very real when we talk about systems of oppression. I really can't say that I don't have the specific titles, because my real passion and focus is on how individuals can really work where they are. But we have to tell the truth about where we have what I also have come to like to use the term within the systems of oppression, which is access blocking. You know, you can't deny that there are challenges in the family structure where people wound up being on food stamps, in jail, in public housing where I am now. And that process is counterproductive for people to get on a clear pathway. You know, I'm always hopeful. That's why I work within the systems that I do and really try to empower people. So with voting rights, family structure, home purchasing, you know, job and wealth creation, I think those are areas that have way too many counterproductive measures in there that deal with, you know, how Black people can actually determine a life-affirming improvement in their quality of life. But with those realities, I still think that there is an opportunity for us to use our individual behavior in order to tell the truth and shame the devil and move forward within those.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that on that list there, I didn't see anything about education. Is that just part of training, job training?
Oh, most definitely. I am basically writing areas that I myself will participate in. You know, I also believe that there are subject matter experts that we need to be able to refer to. So there's a real good entity, which is the Richmond Coalition for Quality Education. And that would be my point person who I would refer, you know, that information to. Living in public housing, I've been blessed to be able to work with the organization called Residents of Public Housing in Richmond Against Mass Eviction, which our acronym is REFRAME. Mm-hmm. And we have a forum that's coming up, and this is a forum designed to create an opportunity for people to really go and just share what's on their mind. Granted, there will be some in the trenches things that are driving what's happening in the community that we need to take the pulse of the community and see if they want to work with that. One of them being the bus transfer station. You know, so
and when is this supposed to take place?
The forum is October the 28th, And that is a Tuesday evening, 5:30 to 8:30. And it will be held at 6 Mount Zion Church in Jackson Ward on Duval Street, 14 West Duval Street.
Well, before we close, we're going to say that one more time so that, hopefully we can get some people to come out.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about this bus transfer station situation that you just mentioned.
Yes.
What's going on with this? Because I understand that there's no more buses coming down Broad Street, stopping on Broad Street or something?
Well, they have redirected some of the, I'll say, fluid traffic. So they're not congregating in certain areas. So the Fairmount bus still travels Broad Street, but it gets to 9th Street and people have to transfer there and go other places, as well with the Ginner Park bus. But that really was done in a way that it really gave me room for pause, and I do think it's an opportunity to do more advocacy, to have that looked at more closely with the Federal Department of Transportation. I say what the devil meant for bad, God meant for good. And a lot of people are congregated there between Marshall Street and Lee Street, and that's right across the street from City Hall. So in your travels to and from where we have to go around the city, it's an opportunity to make your acquaintance with your city council person. Their office is up on the 3rd floor in City Hall, and I want to create some foot traffic there for those folks who can't get there. This is a telephone number, and these are email addresses. So what I would like for people to do is to be more active.
So you can see the numbers?
Yeah.
This right there.
Yeah. More, I got it. More active with the city council people. So these are the email addresses, and then these are the phone numbers of the city council persons, districts 1 through 9. This is a representative democracy, and my goal is to make sure that each person reach another person to the mass aggregate, and that we share our concerns. So if we do a tour to the 3rd floor of City Hall and get to know your city council person, they have reduced the number of city council meetings from 2 on the 2nd and 4th Mondays down to only 1, which is the 2nd Monday of each month. So, they need to hear from us.
And a phone call, believe it or not, carries a lot of weight. You don't really have to, leave your house if you don't feel like it, if you don't have no transportation, but a phone call during the day to the city council secretary, leave your name and information, it carries a lot of weight. But that's something that most of us don't do. We don't become engaged. We think that's all we have to do is go out to the polls and vote for a candidate, and that's all we have to do. But I think we need to be aware of legislation that's coming down the pipe so that we can say yay or nay, because there's so many laws that have passed that's detrimental to us as a people. Mm-hmm. For example, there's one that I call a peonage law. Mm-hmm. Where they can hold you in prison because you're not able to make enough money to take care of your family. Some people call it child support. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with supporting your child, but if you have a court-ordered child support and for some reason you can't keep up the payments because you're not making enough money and they incarcerate you, then no one benefits. The children suffer, first of all, because now whatever you was doing for them comes to an end. Mm-hmm. And the person now, while they're incarcerated, the payments doesn't stop, so they're further behind when they get out. And now their chances of getting a job are even slimmer because now they spend time in jail, and that has to go on their application, Are you convicted of something? Yeah, well, I was convicted of, failure to pay child support, and that's not going to look good at someone trying to give you a job and they say, well, he ain't paying child support, he been in jail for that,
Correct. And these are the kind of issues and concerns that when we have the community forum, we want people to figure out how they can utilize their skill sets in order to petition the city council person, and then have those city council people really petition the legislative body on the state level. Really what people don't know sometimes is that the city council people develop an agenda that they actually present to the Virginia General Assembly. And they do that in like between September and October of each year, because the General Assembly comes into session in January. So I think there's a lot of information that we need to paint a big picture mosaic and then figure out those pieces of the mosaic where we fit in and can do things within our own personal energy. You know, so those kinds of things can really help change the direction of how our communities are governed. You know, our communities are governed the way they are now, which people are mad at, because in my opinion, people are not participating in how to redirect that process. So I don't really have any kind of specifics on what I want people to do, other than create an opportunity for more folk to realize that everybody can't talk all the time, and we got to respect each other, and we got to develop a community agenda and move that community agenda forward.
Mm-hmm. Now this article that you had, this research paper you called Beyond Broke.
Correct.
There's any specific things that you could point out in that article that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, the report was done by five different nonprofits, but the principal nonprofit is called the Center for Global Policy Solutions. And the report was released in May, and they did information based on the recession, depression between 2005 and 2011.
Now, I see this right here. It's written in red. What does that say?
It says, Beyond Broke, why closing the racial wealth gap is a priority for national economic security. And you can actually Google the word Beyond Broke, and this report will come up. It is hot off the press from this May.
So economics gives us a security. Lack of economics can pose a threat to the security of this country, basically.
Most definitely. Because what they're saying is that the projection of the racial makeup in 2040 is going to be the present minority of black and brown will reach the majority. So if the present majority in 2040 or 2030, whichever year it is not economically sound, then that really casts a real challenge to how we need to support our families, how we work in factories, create whatever we need to create. So you really have to look at how do we retool what needs to happen in our community. This report has maybe about 5 or 7. This is the executive summary that I've just pulled some information from. But the two recommendations that I think that we can really do some real advocacy around is what they call the baby bond, which is every child born in the United States, whatever year they start this law, will be issued a savings bond that, based on accrual when they reach majority age, will be able to buy a home, start a business, or go to college. And basically, it's public policy that will incentivize a correction, because you may or may not know, which is also my firm belief, that public policy is really what started us with the discriminating that has gotten the large gaps of poverty the way we see them now. So to correct that, we need to have public policy in order to correct it.
Well, you know, a lot of Europeans are going to call that reverse discrimination. If you try to, do something for the disadvantaged. I mean, I understand that that's not true, but you're going to get backlash from people who just don't want to see African people achieve anything of significance here in America.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's just a deeply rooted
I'll say challenge.
Okay, you can use that word because I was going to say something else. But this is a live call-in talk show. If anybody out there wanted to call in and share their thoughts, opinions, ideas, ask any questions, feel free to call in. I believe the number is 804-915-5202. The lines are going to be opening up now in case anybody wanted to call in. Now,
the second recommendation.
Okay, the second recommendation.
It's called the 10-20-30 plan. And the 10-20-30 plan is devoting public resources, 10% of it, to 20% of the population that's been living 30 or more years in a disaffected or marginalized area. Of course, this takes political will and how you redo, what we need to do in order to incentivize growth. But I think that's where we are now in terms of if you're serious about looking at the reality of how the public policy has created this and what the public policy needs to do in order to correct it. Sitting on the Mayor's Anti-Poverty Commission that was impaneled in 2011, and we rendered a report in January of 2000. You don't need to, but this is just a big report that was done. We rendered it in 2013 to the mayor, and then to his credit, created task force and a citizens advisory board in order to tie small incremental steps into policy to help correct what has been Richmond's terrible history. And that was based on the signature document by Dr. John Meeser, that is the professor emeritus from Virginia Commonwealth University and present senior scholar at the Bonner Center for Civic Engagement at the University of Richmond. And this report has some real good information that's tied to specifics about how that policy created challenges in our communities, so that based on the 2010 census, they found out that more African American households only had 0 to 1 car. Thus the need to push for the transportation system that's getting off to a rough start. And then this one right here is just the distribution of poverty, where it is according to counties and the city. Oh, I haven't looked at this report in a minute. And then this is actually the mass distribution of where the lack of cars are. And then this is the employment trends. And this has another map that goes with it that talks about where the jobs are, which is not in the city, they're in the county. And that's the reason why the bus lines need to extend to go to where the cars are. Mm-hmm. And then I had one other graph, which I don't think I have, but I know it. It is that when you're looking at real numbers and you're talking about minimum wage, living wage, and then you're really looking at where and how it costs to live in a community, those dollars do not support the money that we need to make in order to live in that community. Mm-hmm. So if an apartment or a house, costs, beyond $1,200-$1,400 a month, and your salary is only paying you between $600 and $800 a month, then you're already operating at a deficit. So you can't even pay your rent, your shelter costs, and then you need to deal with where your child care, transportation, food, and all that kind of stuff is. So these are the kind of real systemic things that I think if we just put this information on a regular basis into the hands of the masses of the people, we feel this stuff because this is what we experience. Mm-hmm. But we need to take a step back out of the emotions of it and look at the system of oppression, how it was set up, and then look at measures of how to correct it. And that's really why I came to the conclusion that I came to of doing the strategy part for a community of people that really don't have money to pay folks to do these kind of things, that folks that do have money pay to keep that information away.
Okay. Do you know any specific policies that they might have put in place that caused the situation of lack of employment, like redlining,
Thank you.
Housing discrimination, things like that. At one point in time, you could even discriminate people for working in certain jobs.
They call them restrictive covenants is what they call them in real estate. Those things are illegal. But you have a generation of people that I guess you would say are working on automatic pilot. And that's why I really try to just look at where we can do the advocacy piece personally based on, our energy level and in my perspective, how we, do our prayer life to inform what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. You said that you are involved in Hope in the Cities?
Yes.
What is that all about?
Hope in the Cities is a nonprofit that work on developing, race relations in the city of Richmond. It's a subsidiary of a larger nonprofit called Initiatives of Change. I was introduced to that back in 2003 with the Connecting Communities Fellowship, which has really become a real jewel in my personality, because it really took me out of looking at all of the problems that we face and really look at how you do system change, personal accountability, and then reflection on how you meet people where they are and challenge them to do better within their systems that they operate in. So I sit on their leadership advisory council, and in that capacity we facilitate tough conversations, really having people to look at where we need to be in correcting some of the things that hold us back. On October the 7th, we're going to have a gentleman from Harvard to look at public health information, and that's going to be at the Omni on October the 7th. You can go to www.hopeinthecities.org. And please forgive me if I've actually not said that correctly, but I did myself. He's a professor of health and African American studies at Harvard University, and he will address the social determinants of health and engage with the Richmond health community.
And when is that?
It's going to be October the 7th, and that's a lunch. It's if you just want to participate in the dialogue, you don't do the $10, but that's going to be at the Omni and Omni or the Richmond Times Dispatch. I'm getting my dates confused. I'm in too many things. But 10 is 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock on October the 7th.
And what's the website?
www.hopeinthecities.org.
Okay.
You can Google Hope in the Cities and it'll come up.
Now, are you working with any organizational groups of young individuals in the community that you know of that's trying to reach out to their peers?
Yes, I am. One near and dear to my heart is called Urban Awareness, and that one, the lead person with that is a young man named Jamal, and that's going to do youth counseling, community organizing, really putting a different flair for how urban areas are looked at in our African American communities, and asking them to be more active in their life affirming improvement. Urban Awareness strive to highlight and redevelop and affiliated areas of urban communities. We shine the light on communities' immediate need for system betterment in the areas of education, economics, politics, social reform, and civil justice. I like the politics part because many times our African American young people in the age range of, mid-20s into the early 30s are really not involved in how policy impact our community. You know, we have, like I said earlier, we have the feelings on it, but we don't really do the advocacy piece. So I really want to be able to utilize just bringing awareness to more of our African American youth and help them to realize that they can participate in what's happening in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Let's see. Now, you're going to be doing a radio show real soon?
I forget that.
And this radio show is going to be about this type of things we're talking about now?
Yes, it's ALO on the radio, and I will be doing a 15-minute segment once a month on WRIR show, Open Source RBA. Their host is Chris Dovey, and the goal of the show, as in all that I do, is in raising awareness on how people can become more active in their own community. You know, I've been blessed to be able to participate in different things. Actually, piggybacking on this Beyond Broke, we actually interviewed the principal author, Dr. Rocky Moore, back in June, where she laid out some of this information, and that podcast or link to that show will be available soon. And then we want to make sure that we really utilize that information to apply needed pressure and advocacy on our local elected officials. We basically have to have that conversation about where the priorities are. But in terms of my show, let's create an opportunity for what I like to call innovative alliances. You know, the urban awareness, reframe. You know, what's getting a lot of momentum now is the Raise 15 campaign, which is raising the minimum wage to $15 for the fast food workers, which I think is absolutely excellent. You know, if corporation CEOs can make anywhere from, you know, 15 million to 200 million, which we know that they do, and maybe more, you know, then it should not be a problem with really paying equal pay for equal work. Mm-hmm. And we have to have a life-affirming income that will sustain our households. And then we also have to create an opportunity for people who really don't want to work a job to create businesses for themselves. So it's an opportunity to make that happen as well. A couple of people that I work with have a concept that, you know, we used to do years ago, which I don't really know all the particulars, but I do know the concept, and that is a cooperative economics. I had someone to explain that to me in detail the other day, but the one that I'm really focusing on now is one done by Mr. Ilya Davis, which is the YEP program, a Young Economic Awareness Program, where he actually spent the majority of the summer going into the public housing communities, distributing water, and at the bus transfer station and sharing that concept. But broken down more plainly, for people who want to have shares in the company, they would pay $1 a month for 12 months, and that would equal one share. And then we have to discuss what are the priorities of what needs to be done in order to restore our communities with community-owned businesses, whether it's selling, you know, fresh food, whether it's selling bicycles, whether it's selling hair products. But the goal is to make sure that we are returning wealth into the community in order to be a voice of power that determines what happens in our community.
That's good. I mean, but what about us becoming producers instead of, you know, I mean, it's good to sell things, everything needs to be sold, but you know, I think we also become producers, you know, creating products also, because even if we do have a black-owned business, you know what I'm saying, most of the supplies we get is going to come from a foreign, you know, an alien group of people, you know, so we need to, you know, also I think include in those ways that we can become manufacturers, bring manufacturing into our community, you know. like you said earlier, most of the jobs are out in the county, in Chesterfield County. And we have to find a way to get the city to bring manufacturing jobs back into the city for our people, because transportation is an issue for people with low income. You know, most of them don't have a motor vehicle to get to these jobs that's out there in the county. Like,
Oh, so true.
like what's that one that everybody's, well, I see signs on the street to try to get to Amazon.com. You know, Amazon, you know, if you need to ride to Amazon.com. It's a job, it's hard work, I understand. They really, you know, push the whip while you're there, but hey, for some people that's the best they can do, is work in a factory, you know, because they have no other skill set. So when we go, but that goes back to the educational system that we have. The current mayor is trying to cut a penny off the real estate tax here, which is going to lower the amount of revenue that the city is getting, and they're already complaining about they don't have enough money for the school system. So it's like the administration, the leadership don't really value quality education for our youth. We have a vocational school up here, not too far from here, that I think should be used more for our youth, because a lot of our youth are not going to school. And I think they shouldn't have to wait to high school to start learning, you know, how to become wood makers, HVAC, brick masons, and all those skills that's needed, so that when they do finish high school, then they have a skill that they can offer someone, you know, and have a better chance of getting a job, you know. So then they wouldn't have to, and I'm not knocking a fast food job or a service job where they had to clean offices or serve food, you know, but those jobs aren't going to pay you, and right now they're not going to pay you much, you know, and we don't know if they're going to ever pay much, you know, because they've been trying to get them to raise to pay for fast food workers for quite a while now.
Yeah, but they have some good momentum now. But yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying and agree wholeheartedly. On April the 15th, the mayor created the Community Wealth Building Office, which was one of the bill of particulars that came out of our Citizens Advisory Board. I do think that what you just said about utilizing the tech center, you know, could be something that is pushed through some directives, you know, with that. We have to look at every angle on how to retool what needs to happen, you know, in our community. And it's going to take, you know, more people to participate. I mean, we didn't get to this sad state of affairs overnight. You know, there is some hope in how we can move forward, you know, and I remain hopeful, you know, in that process.
I think there's another thing we need to look at is how we deal with people who have substance abuse problems here in the community. You know, because to lock up a person who has a substance abuse problem is not going to help that person or society whatsoever. I think we need to be looking at ways to have more preventive education, first of all, and treatment. You know, treatment on demand, because a lot of people want treatment, but having to wait 3 or 4 weeks to get in there is really difficult for somebody who needs help immediately.
Yeah,
you know,
they DDTs and they ain't waiting for no daggone 28 days to come back on all that kind of stuff. That is not even a real option.
And so with this health care bill that passed, you know, you would think that that would have been included into it, since addiction is a health issue. You know, they're trying to deal with it with a criminal solution, which for the last 40 plus years has not solved the problem. It's all it has done is make it worse and let our prisons go from around 300,000 to over 2.3 million today. You know, this country has more people in prison than any country in the history of mankind, yet they call this the land of the free. And the numbers just don't lie, you know. And most people don't even know that fact, though. You know, because they're not aware. That's all they get their information from is TV, and TV is not going to report the negative side of what the government is actually doing based on their policies, because, you know, they are working hand in hand to keep the people entertained and sleep and happy.
Yeah, so I see our individual empowerment process as a key to really pushing where we need to be and redirecting, you know, those figures that you share. You know, and definitely it tells a grim story of what's happening in our community. I really want to just emphasize, you know, a call to action for people who really want to see things change in the community to the better. You know, develop some patience, you know, really do your own homework, you know, with information that's being put out there so that you can see where different opportunities are. You know, over the years, I have come to the conclusion that there's really 5 main areas that either make our community thrive or keep it in traction. And that is transportation, it's the ability to create jobs and wealth. And I ran across a statement by Dr. Claude Anderson that I really love, which is, wealth is controlling our resources. You know, and that's, you know, you look at, that's why we haven't been able to thrive as a community, because we don't control our wealth. You know, and you know, and that's why I really like the fact that in being put on the Anti-Poverty Commission, we really took a step forward in terms of changing that narrative from anti-poverty to community wealth building. So I'm, you know, encouraging people to really understand that, you know, this is, you know, it wouldn't even be really considered a baby step. You know, it's almost a baby step, but it's a step in a good direction. And I encourage people to really look at where we need to be. Public safety, you know, is, you know, where we are in terms of having our own personal ethics, morals, and integrity, and learn how to live better among each other in our own community. And it takes that power away from the crazy stuff that we've been seeing, you know, in terms of how policing, you know, I take the community policing part very seriously, and that is in what we do, you know. I remember when I was coming up as a teenager, they used to tell us that we could put people on citizen's arrest. I take that very seriously. You know, and then housing, you know, how do we, you know, put more affordable housing in our community? You know, among this was money that was put into the community wealth building budget was for affordable housing. You know, so we need to, you know, get in there and make sure that we are going to build some affordable housing, help my sister Ellen do what she really wants to do, which is make affordable housing in the truest sense of the word done in our community. And then, as I said, the education. So there's transportation, job, wealth creation, public safety, housing, education, and those have a lot of moving parts that people need to figure out where they can get in to fit in and help, you know, redirect a positive approach to some solutions.
Sounds good. You know, it's really, really hot in this place. I don't know why they got the temperature up so high, but you know, all this sounds excellent, you know, getting engaged and all that stuff. But I think until we as a people begin to love ourselves as a people, and trust each other and want to help each other, I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish anything. You know, we have this, and I'm in this business trying to help empower people financially, you know, and it has no risk involved, but it's like, there's a blockage, you know, where they can't see a concept that can empower them financially, where they don't have to be struggling. You know, they could strive. And it just boggles my mind, you know, that we're so eager to run, and I'm gonna call it what it is, onto the plantation, you know, beg for that job on the plantation versus becoming entrepreneurs so that we can have a sense of self-worth. You know, and I think
self-worth, dignity, personal economy improvement.
Yeah, well, I don't think nobody wanted to call into our show today for some reason. Hopefully next week, or maybe nobody's even listening. I
think they're so impressed with the information that they're getting that they just want to keep listening. But I was curious that no one wanted to join our conversation, but it's all good. We'll talk again.
Well, we're going to be back next week, and we're going to be talking about education again. We're going to have Kendu Shabazz, who's supposed to be my guest next week. We have an independent African Center school here in the Richmond area that we're going to talk about and, explain to the listening audience why it is very important that we start educating our own. If we have to do homeschooling or co-op homeschooling, there's curriculums online. There's all kinds of things available for us to give our youth what they really need to prepare them for a future, because they're not going to get it in the public school system. I don't care what you think and what you say. They're not going to get the information that's going to empower them to do what needs to be done to improve our overall condition as a people. The information they're going to get is to empower themselves as an individual and just look out for themselves. And that's not the African way of life. We were not about individualism. It was about the family, the community, and the nation all striving as one. Everybody had a responsibility. But unfortunately, that's not taught to our children. And so,
and until we get into the community and demand that they change their curriculum for our betterment,
Well, that's going to be tough. I think that our best strategy would be to create our own schools, Now, and by saying that, there's an organization down in Atlanta called the African Community Center. And they have a campaign that's called the 10-10-50. But their goal is to create African community centers throughout all major cities in the world for African people to have a center where the resources are available to take care of ourselves and not have to depend on the government or anyone else to take care of us as a people. Just like the Jews have Jewish centers all throughout the United States. Well, that's what the African Community Center wants to create for us people. And they have this campaign called the 10-10-50. And basically what this campaign is, you take $10 a month and donate it to a nonprofit organization, hopefully that organization, to help support it financially. And then you take 10 hours a month and donate it to an organization in your community that's working to improve the condition. Then set aside $50 in your budget each month to spend at a black-owned business, which can really transform our communities really fast. If we just take that one concept. You don't have to belong to no organization or any group or anything. You can just internalize that yourself. 10 hours a month, donate to an organization, $10 to that organization, and spend your money.
Circulate black dollars.
Yeah, recycle black dollars. I want to thank you, Lily Estes, for coming on our show. It was been a pleasure talking to you, and you're doing some great things. Keep up the good work, and you have my support in whatever you do. And,
I really appreciate the opportunity to share, and I enjoyed the conversation as well. Reframe Community Forum, October the 28th, 5:30, 6 Mount Zion Church. We will be offering transportation and child care on for the day of the event.
Okay.
Looking forward to people coming out. They can call 804-476-0756.
Yep, we're getting ready to go off the air, but we want to once again thank you for being out there listening. If anybody out there listening, we appreciate you listening. Maybe next week you'll call in and ask some questions. And until then, have a good, positive, safe week. Exercise. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm also a personal fitness trainer. So if anybody want to get in shape, lose some weight, wherever, contact me. My website is going to be on the screen when you're at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for watching.
Ain't dead. It's still alive. It's still alive. How many know there's still a revolution? Brothers and sisters taking a stand, standing up for what's right and demanding equality. How many know that we will never set free. We've got to join together as one, or we're gonna fall together as many. We've got to set our differences aside and let unity be our guide, and everything will be alright.
Now, when we first organized the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, he would say, Bobby, he says, we're going to draw up a basic platform, just basic, that black people can read. He says, we don't want to go real elaborate with all these essays and dissertations and all this stuff, because the brother going to look at that and he can say, man, I ain't got time for that. I got to go see what I can do for myself. He said, just a basic platform that the mothers who struggle hard to raise us, that the fathers who've worked hard, that the young brothers in school who come out of school semi-illiterate, reading broken words. He said, we just want a basic platform to outline black people's basic political desires and needs. First, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. We want all black men held in county, state, federal jails and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial, because they've been tried by all white juries, and that's just like being tried in Germany being a Jew.
Do you remember Huey P. Newton, Kwame Ture? How I wish that they were here today. Where are the fallen soldiers? Can I salute you? Where are the fallen soldiers? Can I salute you? When society tries to tell you